How's it flying, guys? Lance Corporal Hawk 30 here, and yes, now that I am finally done recording my playthrough of the latest Legend of Zelda game, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, yes, it is finally time to get back to doing reactions. And I'm going to start with the Fat Electrician's latest video. There are multiple other videos that I am laid on from his channel, and also the Fat Files channel. In fact, I will most likely do a couple of the Fat Files videos that I missed out on next after this one, just to kind of make sure, okay, that's caught up too. But, yeah. So 2 reasons why I picked this one instead of one of the others that I missed out on. One, it's shorter. Like, literally, I just want a relatively shorter reaction, getting back into the swing of things, making sure that I've still got my setup right, that it's still going to come out fine, that see if it shouldn't need any tweaking, because I've been, not consistently, but I have been recording gameplay footage. Shut up, phone. But, yeah, so this is just going to be like a shorter one. That way, you guys, if there is anything weird going on with the footage, it's not going to be so long and drawn out like that hour-plus one I saw he released. So, plus it is getting, by the time I'm actually getting around to recording this, it is getting later. It's 1:50 right now, at my time. But I work late nights. So, anyways, one other thing. For those who do not know, I will be making a post while this is uploading or while this is being rendering in the video editor. But at the time of Sunday, March 16th, that is tomorrow at the time of recording, I will be participating in a charity fundraising event for Feeding America, with a bunch of people that from the SMG4, Hell of a Boss, and Glitch production side of reaction channel stuff. Yeah, even though it's been a bit since I've reacted to any of that, I'm still participating, and we are going to be raising money for Feeding America, and the goal is to kind of help with the people who unfortunately lost their homes in the wildfires in California the past couple months, right? So that's what is going to be going on Sunday, that being tomorrow, and I'll be making posts on everything before this video goes live. But if this is your first time hearing about that, please go check that out. I'm going to be on Super Raccoon Bros channel. I will post a link to that. I don't know if he's got a weight room set up for that yet or not. But yeah, so please go check that out. I will be later in the stream joining to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So, but with that out of the way, yes, please go check this out. Check it out. Please donate to a good cause whenever you guys get a chance to. And yeah, with that out of the way, it is time for Funny Electron Man, because I have been neglecting him. Link, as always, will be in the description. Please make sure that you have, in fact, seen the original video before you watch my reaction to it. Hold on, let me turn my gain up just a little bit on my mic. With that out of the way, let us go ahead and go. Wait, I was about to exit full screen. Let's go ahead and go.
Well, this is definitely one of the tanks of all time.
M247 Sergeant
Today
York.
we're talking about the M247 Sergeant York. For all intents and purposes, it is a futuristic anti-aircraft tank. Buh! You're so dumb, it's not a tank, it's a SPAG, a self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. Buh! Yeah, no, I'm aware, I just call it that because it's an armored vehicle with tracks and a big gun, which to 99.9% of people on the planet, it's a tank. Plus,
yeah.
I refuse to call it a SPAG because it sounds like a slur, okay? And if you...
It kind of does! It kind of does. Not gonna lie. What would a word like spag as a slur even apply to? It would have to be something military related. It would have to be, but anywho.
If you don't believe me, if a tanker drives a tank, what is somebody that drives a spag called? Now go
I
call
didn't
somebody out
even
in public
think
and
of
see if you get
that!
slapped, all right? Just make it easy for everybody. Call it a tank. Anyways, the Sergeant York is an anti-aircraft tank equipped with two 40mm Bofors capable of firing 240 rounds per minute. It's capable of firing a variety of different rounds, including a proximity fuse version, which we covered a couple of weeks ago. And if you watch that video, you...
Oh, man. I gotta try to get something like that for one of my friends. He is a major Fallout fan. But anywho, yeah, that's one of those videos that, yes, I will be catching up on. I did not forget that I need to react to that. I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to get the new one out of the way real quick.
You would know that 240 proximity fuse rounds coming at you would be a pretty formidable opponent for any airborne adversary. But it gets better because the Sergeant York is going to be equipped with a state-of-the-art radar system capable of tracking up to 48 different targets at any given moment, then automatically prioritizing which target is the biggest threat, and then it was going to send the signals to the turret to auto-track and lock onto that target, and all the gunner has to do is pull the trigger. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that America tried to create an anti-aircraft tank that was running on an aimbot. Okay, the key word here being trying, because that's not quite exactly what happened, but we're going to get into that right after a word from our sponsor.
Okay, real quick, I wonder if it's named after Sergeant Alvin York from the First World War. He's the one that Sabaton made a song about called 82nd All the Way. I wonder if that's who it's named after. But also, just think... if this had worked, apparently it didn't work out so well, but if it had, then I could picture some Middle Eastern noob going, Dad, cheating, Dad, using aimbot, what the hell?
This video is brought to you by Conflict of Nations, a free online PvP military-based strategy game. It is a World War III type scenario where you can pick your favorite country, or you can pick a state inside of the United States, because let's face it, that's the only way it's going to be fair to everybody else. Personally, I like to play Iowa side of the United States, because let's face it, that's the only way.
Yeah, that's a very big number disparity. I wish that the QR code wasn't covering this specific number that the United States contributes to NATO spending, but let's be honest. Let's be 110% honest. If anything goes down, if between any nation, NATO is going to be like, US, come help! Let's be 100% honest.
The way it's going to be fair to everybody else. Personally, I like to play Iowa for obvious reasons, and every single time my first order of business is attacking cold California. I mean, Diet Canada. I mean, Minnesota. Once we turn Minnesota into Upper Iowa, I would usually turn my sights directly to Canada, but let's face it, at this day and age, Kendrick Lamar and the U.S. hockey team has already done that for me. Let me hear you say, Now remember, this is a strategy-based game. You can be diplomatic, form an alliance, and work together. I mean, you could. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna build up an army with tanks, jets, and nuclear submarines and turn my sights to Nebraska and prove once and for all that our corn is better. And I know what you're thinking. How on earth are nuclear submarines gonna help in the battle between Nebraska and Iowa? They're not, but they're also cool, so shut up. Anyways, if you want to give it a try, it's available on both PC and mobile, and if you use my link and discount code down below, you're gonna get a 1-month free subscription and 13,000 free gold. Let's get back to the video. Okay. All right, so in order to understand the Sergeant York, we've got to have a little bit of the history of air defense as a whole. So once upon a time, airplanes were invented. They were then used in warfare. Everybody kind of looked up at the sky and went, huh, that's new. But luckily, new problems usually require the same old answers.
Hey, shoot that guy.
Now we're talking like World War I, right? Warfare at this point in time, not that sophisticated. As far as weapons go, you've pretty much got guns and then bigger guns, right? There's no drones, there's no Hellfire missiles, none of that shit. So people just had landmines, with whatever they had, everything from machine guns to 90mm artillery. And for America, one of the most effective weapons against planes proved to be none other than the Browning M250 caliber machine gun, created by none other than America's patron saint of hole punching, John Moses Browning.
Yeah.
Don't copyright Disney. Have specialized missiles and ammunition that know where the plane's at and blow up and track down the aircraft and blow it out of the sky. Absolutely, but it's perfect because it follows the KISS principle, right? What's the problem? Fast-moving planes are hard to hit. Cool. Let's just shoot at it a lot with a machine gun. We'll hit it eventually. It's accuracy by volume. So World War II rolls around. Planes get even faster. What do? We just shoot at it even more. You know what shoots more bullets than a single Browning M250 caliber machine gun? 4 Browning 50 caliber machine machine guns operating off of one trigger inside of the M45 quad mount. Okay, this thing was like Frank's Red Hot, all right? We put that shit on everything. We were putting it on trucks, on armored personnel carriers. We had trailers that we'd pull behind the Jeeps. It was everywhere. And the cool part about this,
I mean, I don't put that much Frank's Red Hot on many things, but it tastes good. Tastes good. I think I've got some in my fridge. I just haven't opened it yet. Back to the video before I get too ADHD distracted.
Other than the fact that it's 450 caliber machine guns, is while it may not be the best thing around for shooting a plane out of the air for that very narrow application, it was a really good option for pretty much any problem that you could run into on the battlefield, right? You've got 450 caliber machine guns pointed up at the sky looking for enemy planes. There's no enemy planes, but there's a bunch of enemy soldiers over there. Oh, there were a bunch of enemy soldiers over there, and that's why the M45 quad mount stood the test of time, because we were still slapping this thing on the back of trucks during Vietnam. We weren't really shooting down a lot of planes with it, but you know what? Every time the trees started speaking, John Moses Browning had something to say back.
Did you chop down this tree?
No.
Seeing how effective this was, the American government was like, you know, it'd be cooler than 450 calibers on the back of a truck if we took even bigger machine guns and stuck them on top of a fucking tank. So they took an M24 Chaffee tank, took the turret off,
logic behind
slapped 40mm Bofors on it, and created the infamous M42 Duster. And they used it for pretty much the same thing, mobile deforestation. They would roll up with an M42 Duster, and they had a gigantic spotlight, and whenever they heard something, they would just blast the giant spotlight out into the woods and just mow everything down so the enemy was blinded by the light. Now, if you're
blinded by the light. Oh yeah, stuff like that. That one swivel turret with the 4 M2s. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And goes to show, it'd be a long time before it did. If it did. Just good things that work tend to last.
If you were hunting deer, would spotlighting like that be illegal? Depending on where you live, more than likely. However, we're not hunting deer, this is war, and as you all know, it's never a war crime the first time. So the M42 Duster becomes absolutely legendary among the men that use it in Vietnam. Time passes, we need to keep improving. Unfortunately, missile technology still not doing that great, so the best option we have is still accuracy by volume. How do we keep improving upon what we've already done? Let's get an even bigger gun. So they created one of my favorite vehicles of all time, the Vigilante.
Before I let you continue, it's like anybody that's ever seen the Team Fortress 2 Meet the Team videos, that's seen the engineer video, his solution always is, how am I gonna prevent some big mean Mother Hubbard from tearing me a structurally superfluous new behind? Answer simple, use gun. And if that don't work, gets another turret, use more gun. Still having a hard time? Use more gun.
Took an M113 armored personnel carrier and slapped the biggest Gatling gun ever made on top.
Okay.
Now, does that make it better?
I was wondering where
no,
the top
doesn't,
half
but
was.
it does make it way more scary. Could you imagine being held up in a building and you're like, oh, the Americans are here, and then they pull up with that monstrosity and a guy flips a switch and all those barrels start spinning right before that thing starts pissing 3,037mm rounds per minute at your building? Buh! Sounds like just a bunch of wasted ammunition to me. Buh! Yeah, and this is America. We don't run out of bullets, we run out of bad guys, homie. You have two options in life, really. You can A, run out of ammunition, or B, be $20 trillion in debt. Go ahead and ask the Americans which one they picked.
Guns. Lots of guns.
Then the US government came to the conclusion that missiles were going to be the way of the future, so they retired the Vigilante and replaced it with the Mauler, which was going to be an armored personnel carrier that carried a missile launcher that would fire anti-aircraft missiles. And to be honest with you, it kind of sucked for multiple reasons. One, missile technology still not that good at the time, so it wasn't very good at its job at shooting down enemy aircrafts. And then on top of it, it's a bunch of anti-aircraft missiles. It's not a giant machine gun that you could just aim at literally anything that's upsetting you. So the US government realizes, well, this isn't working. They look around and they're like, well, what do we have that is working? And the only thing that's kind of working is the M42 Duster, still putting in work until 1988. So they say, all right, accuracy by volume it is. They take the M42 Duster and the Vigilante, they kind of merge them together, and they create the VADS, the Vulcan Air Defense System, my favorite anti-aircraft weapon of all time.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I can see why.
They took the same M113 personnel.
So like, hey, see all those guys there? Yeah? I want to not see them. Gotcha. How's the view now, sir? Much clearer, thank you.
carrier and then slapped a 20mm Vulcan rotary cannon on top, capable of firing 6,000 rounds per minute. And again, it works kind of okay on enemy aircraft, and even better,
6,000 rounds per minute. That is 60 rounds. That is 60 big boy rounds a second.
on enemy, everything else. Do I have any examples of this? Why, yes, I do. In 1989, during Operation Just Cause, when the United States military went into Panama to remove the dictator Manuel Noriega, a bunch of his men were held up inside of the headquarters building, surrounded, to which the American forces told them, hey, you should probably go ahead and surrender, to which they were like, nah. To which the American commander said, all right, get the Vulcan up here. Go ahead and fire a warning shot at the front door.
Warning shot?
Gunny, but it's an M224 60mm mortar. I don't give a shit. Fire the fucking warning shot.
And here's what the building looked like after the warning shot, at which point all of the men inside were like, you know what, on second thought, actually, we will go ahead and surrender.
Gotcha.
The end. At this point, the problem now is
if
that
it
attack
works,
helicopters are a thing, like the Soviet Union has the Mi-24 Hind, and there's a new tactic that's been developed called pop-up. Basically, an attack helicopter would fly nape of the earth, very close to the ground, hiding behind trees and other terrain features until it got close enough to your troops, and then it would just pop up, and it would fire a missile, pop back down, and dip. By the time you realized you were getting shot at, the enemy was already gone, meaning that this weapon system was basically useless against this tactic, so America had to come up with a new weapon to counter this. So again, they look around at what's working. We've got the VADS. The VADS is working pretty good. Why isn't it working here? Well, it can't target and aim at the helicopter fast enough to respond before the helicopter fires its missile and takes off. So what if we made an anti-aircraft tank with big machine guns that had some super smart radar that would be able to sense the helicopter coming from miles away and just track it, and then the second it popped up, it would shoot it down before it could shoot at us. Sounds like a good idea. Let's put together a bid packet and then let people design one and see what they come up with. So they put together the criteria of what they're looking for. They're looking for a new anti-aircraft tank that's capable of keeping up with the M1 Abrams so it can protect them, and it needs to be able to use its radar systems to track up to 48 different targets at any given time, automatically prioritizing the most important target and auto-tracking that target.
This was like what? He said 89. So this has got to like be like early 1990s. Gotta be impressed by how sophisticated some technology was to be able to detect up to 48 targets and be able to prioritize which target to aim at first while keeping track of the other 47. That could be because because of technological illiteracy on my part, but I would think for something like that, what he's describing sounds pretty sophisticated for that time.
And then when it does fire, it needs to have up to a 50% hit rate from up to 2 miles away. Now, that sounds pretty cool, but it is a pretty big undertaking. Like, that's a
Hold on, what?
From up to 2 miles that target. And then when it does fire, it needs to have up to a 50% hit rate from up to 2 miles away. Now, that sounds...
The sucker's literally using VATS. That's literally... And he's wearing the Fallout themed shirt. Like, he's... Tanks with VATS. Okay. Very impressive.
Sounds pretty cool, but it is a pretty big undertaking. Like, that's a big ask for the technology at the time. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, what I'm trying to tell you is they basically have two different strategies for air defense at the time. Okay, we have the keep it simple, stupid method. Okay, let's get a big machine gun and shoot a lot of bullets till we hit the target. Okay, and it's really convenient because not only is it good for shooting down planes, machine guns work on pretty much everything, so it's a very versatile weapon. And then we have the cutting edge technology option, you know, things like missiles. Historically, they haven't worked that great up until this point because, well, missile technology just isn't that good. But the technology is going to get better eventually, right? But even then, the problem still remains that you now have a big weapon system with a very, very specific, narrow skill set that it needs to be used in, right? If you have a fucking tank that shoots anti-aircraft missiles and you're in a firefight with 300 guys on the ground, it's not really that helpful. So what if we merged the two together? What if we took the desired accuracy of a missile and then applied it to a couple of giant machine guns? Basically, what if we stuck an aimbot inside of the M42 Duster? It would be the perfect weapon. So they have the perfect plan. They have the perfect vision. The only problem is this is a pretty big ask for the technology of the late 1970s, early 1980s. So obviously we're just gonna let the engineers with the military contractors do their thing and build the weapon the way we want it. No, absolutely not. The government steps in and is like, no, we need to cobble this thing together with a bunch of old shit that we've got laying around.
My offer is this. Nothing.
This new super advanced anti-aircraft tank needs to be made
Of
out of the
course.
hull of an old Patton tank from World War II. In addition to that, instead of developing a new radar specifically designed for this mission set, I want you to just take a radar out of an F-16, you know, the radar for a fighter jet that's used to operating in open airspace with no objects around it whatsoever. Yeah, I want you to take that radar, shove it in this thing that's sitting on the ground, surrounded by other solid objects to fuck with the radar and just make it work. So 5 contractors get selected. Sperry, the same guys that made the Vigilante, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Ford Aerospace, and General Electric all get to work on making a prototype. In the meantime, we got to come up with a cool name, right? Okay, it's going to be this super badass state-of-the-art tank. It's going to be just like this expert marksman with an aimbot inside of it that's capable of shooting and auto-tracking anything. What should we name it after? I know the answer. Let's name it after Alvin York, aka Sergeant York, the World War I hero that was a renowned sharpshooter. Makes perfect sense. That's a great name from a great man. Now we just have to build a tank that lives up to that name, and to be honest with you, we're off to a horrible start.
Yeah. Look, as far as creating a proof of concept out of what you've already got lying around, that, you know, that makes some sense. You've got to start somewhere with a prototype. Having a prototype being like, okay, so we want roughly to something that would kind of work like this. Let's get what we have lying around to see, you know, let's take some of what we've got, try to see if we can make it work in conjunction with its other functions, and then have that as a prototype, right? Like, have that as something just to have a proof of concept to see if it can work. But don't call it a final product. You know, you make your final product from scratch after you see what issues this Frankenstein prototype ends up working, like, right? So, but thinks it didn't quite go like that.
So blueprints for the prototypes get submitted. They pick the 2 best options. Those are from Ford Aerospace and General Dynamics. So they go ahead, they give Ford and General Dynamics $79 million each to build their prototype, and then they send them into testing to go head to head. In testing, they have the tanks out on the field. They have a bunch of drones fly by. The General Dynamics tank shoots down 19 drones, and the Ford tank shoots down 9. So naturally, they give General Dynamics the bid. I'm just kidding. They give it to Ford. Why the fuck would they do that? Well, apparently, they went ahead and decided that they liked the idea of having the 40 millimeter ammunition that Ford was using over the 35 millimeter ammunition that General Dynamics was using, even though the bid specified it could be any caliber between 30 and 40 millimeter.
Here's what I heard. Blah, 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 size, bigger. And bigger is better.
So Ford goes ahead and they get the bid with their tank that was literally less than half as effective as the General Dynamics version. So Ford then goes, takes
I'm already telling what a big part of the reason why this failed. Oh, we like the bullets is using more. That's not what you specified, asshole. Plus, literally, that one is worse than the other one we're seeing.
some money, builds 4 prototypes, and then starts manufacturing like 150 more of these things. The prototypes get put into testing and they perform absolutely terrible. Now, the Sergeant York tank is supposed to be able to use its radar to lock onto enemies in 2 different ways. One, it can track motion, ideally the props on a helicopter spinning, and it'll lock onto that. And the backup is that it's got thermals so it can lock onto heat signatures. Again, this is being powered by a radar that's out of an F-16, which was designed to operate in open airspace. So that radar is confused by trees and buildings, and if the guns aim up, the gun barrels interfere with the radar as well. So it's pretty much confused about everything.
The tree is talking.
Tree? I am no tree.
If that wasn't bad enough, due to all the added weight from the 240mm Bofors and the radar and all the other equipment that's packed inside of this thing, it weighed way more than it was supposed to, meaning that it was too slow to keep up with the M1 Abrams, which was its entire point for existing. Eventually, some politicians start asking questions, which means journalists start asking questions, then they start writing articles, and then there's public outcry that the government's wasting money on this tank. So in 1984, the Secretary of Defense, Caspar Weinberger, steps in and he's like, you know what? We're going to figure out if this thing actually works with even more testing, and this testing is going to cost $54 million. Now it's getting covered by the press. They've got the Sergeant York out there doing this expensive testing, and it's not able.
If just testing it costs that much, when, what did he, I think he said it was 79 million per tank being made, I think. Could be wrong, but if it costs more than half the money to test it as it did to build the damn thing, why?
Able to shoot down a single drone that's moving like an actual combatant would move. So then they resort to just flying the drones low and slow in a straight fucking line, which is something an enemy aircraft would never do, and it still can't hit. But then it finally grazes one.
But I dicked it. It hit the bed.
You're still out.
You're still fat.
Now, it doesn't shoot the drone down, but it did damage it. And according to protocol, the dude running the drone immediately hits the self-destruct button to blow it up. That way the drone didn't fly off and crash into something important, which is exactly what he was supposed to do. But all the journalists that were there interpreted that as the Army trying to rig the testing to make the Sergeant York look like it was effective. So now there's even more public outcry that we need to quit wasting money on this tank because the Army has invested billions upon billions of dollars in this thing and it simply doesn't work. So then they go out and they have the helicopter drone just hover, which is something that would never ever happen, but that's what they do. And the York still cannot shoot down the drone. So then they add a bunch of radar reflectors to make it even more obvious to the York's radar where this helicopter is and have it be completely stationary.
Just upgrade the radar at that point. Jeez. Just, if the radar is a big part of the problem, the radar can't pick up what it needs to aim at, scrap, tear out the radar that's not working, and if you're just trying to Frankenstein cobble something together, find another radar that is better for what it needs. It's not hard, shouldn't be hard to understand, or here's the smart thing, make a radar specifically designed for use with what the thing is.
One of the lead journalists on this story described this as the equivalent to, and I quote, testing a bloodhound's ability to track a man by covering him with beefsteaks and standing him still alone upright in the middle of a parking lot. And the Army is like, no, it works. It works and it's awesome. You know what we're gonna do? Let's go. We're gonna have a bunch of British officers and Australian high-ranking officers and Congress people that doubt us and bring them out to the field, and we're gonna put on a demonstration and show them how awesome this thing is. And you know what? While we're at it, you know who else would love to see how effective this tank is?
I don't know. Who?
Alvin York's widow, who is 82 years old. We should bring her out here with Congress and show off the awesome tank that we named after her husband. So that's what they do. They go out to the training field, they get a nice set.
This is the big... One of the biggest, I'm not listening, I'm not listening. I'm telling you what I think. Just gonna, I can't see what you're talking about. It works. And to bring the man's widow, say like, you stupid piece of shit. Oh, that is an insult. I would be surprised if that woman was nothing short of just absolutely insulted. That poor... If it worked, that would be something else, you know? Maybe if they'd hired the people that had the more accurate prototype to begin with, it wouldn't be such a shit show.
Set of aluminum bleachers, you know, the ones that burn your ass every time you go to your nephew's Little League game, those ones. And they set them out there. They get Congress, a bunch of high-ranking foreign military guys, and Alvin York's widow sitting out there looking at the Sergeant York on the practice field, and the only thing in eyesight is the latrine. The demonstration kicks off, the first drone's flying by, the operators inside the Sergeant York turn on the radar. It's supposed to auto-lock onto the helicopter. It's literally the only thing that's moving, and instead of beaming up to lock onto this helicopter drone, it immediately pans over and aims at the latrine because it sees the movement from the exhaust fan and interprets that as the closest viable target and aims at that instead. Drone finishes its flyby, nothing happened. Okay, drone loops back around to do another flyby. Operators inside the Sergeant York are like, okay, rough start, no big deal. We locked onto the shitter instead of the helicopter. It's fine. Let's switch over to heat signature. So they...
If that ain't indicative of how big a shit show they're making this out to be, despite tests where a lot of people already saw it really don't work that good. digging your heels in, helping, and I've got a feeling it's gonna turn right back to that same target with thermal.
Switch over to lock onto a heat signature, and it does exactly what it was programmed to do. It locks on to the closest heat signature, which is not the helicopter, it's the hot-ass bleachers with all the congressional members and Alvin York's widow. So now Congress and Alvin York's widow are looking down the barrels of two 40mm Bofors, at which point everybody begins running and jumping off of these bleachers for obvious reasons. Some of the Congress people and military officers get hurt, they twist their ankles, whatever, and obviously this ends up being the end of the Sergeant York program, and it is considered a gigantic failure.
No shit.
Keep my name out your mouth.
Today, there's only a couple left in existence. There's one in the Alvin York Historical Park in Tennessee, and the other one is inside of the Air Defense Training Facility at Fort Sill, both of which stand as gigantic 54-ton, $8 billion examples of you should probably just follow the KISS principle and keep it simple, stupid. Speaking of the Air Defense Training Facility, I do have to give a special thank you to Corey, the curator of that facility, and Fort Sill as a whole for letting me and my friend Ethan, Mr. Habitual Line Crosser here on YouTube, to come on to post and get an exclusive tour for our new Pepperbox exclusive TV show, Habitually Fat. That tour is where I got a lot of this information, and we filmed the entire thing, and that is our first episode ever, and it is up on Pepperbox right now if you wanted to go check it out.
Aircraft circles back around. Now we're using the heat-seeking option. And so this thing, again, switch the system on, everything checks out immediately. We pick up 2 targets. Now the catch is, we've got an aircraft inbound, but we've also set up some nice aluminum bleachers off here, off to the side, and it begins to track on those aluminum bleachers. And Congress finds themselves looking down the barrels of 2 hot 40mm. At that point, basically, they jump off of the bleachers, you get sprained ankles. When you hurt Congress, that's gonna be the end of your program.
It worked perfect. Why are they mad?
It worked perfectly, just not...
The shit house and the politicians. It's a perfect machine.
I didn't even think of it that way. I mean, can't fault his logic. I mean, it gets a point for that, but Alvin York's widow was in those bleachers, so it's like,
Shit, it's awesome. This is my new favorite tank. Other than that, thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Oh man, that's
don't
way to
forget
end
to
it
go
off
check
on.
out Conflict of Nations. You get to pick your favorite country, mainly America, or if you like losing, you can pick somebody else. Don't forget to use my code to get all the freebies. I'm gonna go find a beer.
Yeah. I still need to watch. That was that hour-plus long one I made mention of.
I've said it once, and I will say it again. There is absolutely nothing politicians won't fuck up. Well, this is...
Okay, so we restarted the video on accident. Yeah, he is not wrong. He is not wrong. Man. I don't even have a way to end that out. I can't even think of a good way to end that out that he didn't already do. Like, it did what it was supposed to do. It was aimed at the shitter and the politicians. Perfect targets. I can't even think of what to add. I already got it out of my system. How stupid were the people making that decision? Like, dude. Like he said, keep it simple, stupid. And also, pick it based off of how well it did, not how well you like the guns. I gotta go, because I gotta go to the bathroom. Link. That's gonna be it, everybody. Link to... yeah. Let me know what you thought. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment what your favorite part of this video was. Subscribe if you're new. Tap the bell to get notified when I upload a video so you don't miss any reaction, gameplay, or otherwise. This has been Lance Block 30, signing off.